I had a client when I was coaching. I had a client that had a goal. He had a goal, and one of his goals, he was going to have a reward for himself of a couple new suits and high-end suits. And he had to make he had to make his goal first, and then he was going to get his suits. But to help remind him why he was doing what he was doing, I had him go to the shop, the place that handmade the suits, and pick out the cloth that he wanted. And they would give him a swatch of it, right? So then I had him go to the hardware store and put a grommet in it and use that as a keychain. So every day, because that's one thing most of us are doing now that we're commuting a little bit more, you grab your keys. So that swatch was right there always. And so he always reminded him every day of, okay, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm working so hard to gain new clients. This is why I'm working so hard to do whatever. Hello, and welcome to the Dream Architect Life with Brian Sweet and Brittany Anderson from Sweet Financial Partners. If you're just joining us on this podcast, I need to tell you that this is part 3 of a small 3-part series that Brian and Brittany are doing. And the theme is living a life beyond wealth. I just want to say for the record that the first 2 podcasts in this series were absolutely stunning to me. And I'm a part of it. I mean, I don't write any of this stuff. I just sit here and listen and learn along with you, the audience, but they were fantastic. And Brittany, I'd love for you just to give a quick recap of the first 2 and then introduce the topic for today, because this is going to be fun.
I would love to give a recap. So we have been talking the past couple episodes about essentially living a life beyond wealth, redefining what wealth means. So Brian dropped a ton of knowledge a couple episodes ago in the health and longevity space. And what we highlighted was that health and wealth tend to become synonymous in many different ways. So I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it, but you definitely want to tune in for things that you're not hearing about in your traditional doctoring, things that can help you potentially live longer, take preventative action, discover things that are maybe brewing under the surface that you wouldn't know about until you become symptomatic. So that is one that you absolutely you can't afford to miss. Let's just put it bluntly. The following episode, we touched on legacy and purpose. It got a little emotional. It was my fault. And then Eric, being the empath that he is, jumped on board, and Brian's over here going, what's going on? No, no, but we talked about how important it is to really figure out, you know who you are, who you've been up to this point, but make sure that you're reshaping that identity and finding your purpose through defining your values, through making sure that you really understand kind of what you were put on this earth to do. And then backing that into legacy, which is looking ahead into the future, participating in your legacy right now. We shared a couple really cool examples. Brian shared a personal example of something that he's done. And that has really led us up to the point of where we're at right now with talking about experiences. Now, this is a topic that I know Mr. Sweet, my cohort over here, feels very passionately about. Not everybody knows that he's kind of a daredevil. He's kind of an adrenaline junkie. He's all about that life of experiences. So he's going to share some stuff here in a minute about some of the things that he's experienced. But I want to set the foundation first. So when you think about experiences, a lot of times people jump to travel. Right. For some reason, people think about experience equals going somewhere. The thing that I want you to embrace as you're listening to this is that experiences are sometimes just making extraordinary out of the ordinary. It's trying to find ways that kind of light you up, that maybe surprise you a little bit. So I think about it, and I tell this to my kids every day, that, every day you can find a cool new experience. And it might be in something so simple. It might be in, the sound of the leaves in the trees as they're playing outside. It made just a cool noise. Or, there's a beautiful sunset, and that's an experience in itself. And it can be some of these really cool big adventures that Brian will talk about too. But really, you just have to define what experiences mean to you. So, Brian, I want you to set the stage. Talk about a couple of your most favorite experiences that you've had.
Okay, well, and I cannot lie. You are correct. I am an adrenaline junkie, so I do like kind of some extreme things. A couple things. This first one isn't extreme, but it's kind of interesting. Is I was fortunate enough to be in a elephant polo match, and I happened to be the first one to score a goal in elephant polo. So that was kind of an exciting project. It's a really, really long pole. that you use for the polo stick. And when the elephant steps on the volleyball, it makes a really loud noise and the game's halted for a bit. Another fun thing that I've done is I was fortunate to be in Switzerland, and I got to jump off a mountain and paraglide down
Wow.
to the bottom. And the scenery and whatnot is just breathtaking. And I could probably talk all day on crazy things I've done, but those are the first two when Brittany said she wanted me to give a couple of examples. Now, one that most people will say you're absolutely nuts that I have not done, but it's on towards the top of my bucket list is I want to go cage diving, excuse me, with a great white shark so that they can come up and hit their nose against the cage and get that kind of experience. So that's to be determined when that will happen, but that's on my list yet.
And I have watched way too much Shark Week to ever want to do that.
I don't want to lose respect from the audience right now, but when you said elephant polo, I was picturing them in the water. Wrong polo, right? Got it. Okay.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, that's amazing. I've never done any of those things, and I would join you in the cage mainly just to take pictures. But yeah, I think
well, when I get it figured out, I'll be giving you a call because I might need some companions because it might be just me and you. Yeah.
Deal. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, I mean, this is, again, Brittany, I love the point that you made, right? Experiences don't have to be far away. The first thing when you said experiences, my brain exactly went where you said travel, right? Something new, meaning someplace I haven't been before, but you can experience new things anywhere, anytime, really. So I love that explanation. I'd love for you to expand on that and how you help clients find those things that can give them those experiences to satisfy that itch, whether it's an adrenaline junkie like Brian, or if it's somebody who just wants to learn how to appreciate things more, right? Slowing down, things like that.
Yeah. It always starts with this foundational conversation about values. And it depends on the person, because some people like myself, if somebody came and sat down and was like, Brittany, I'd really love to talk to you for the next hour or two about values and purpose and, what you really want to do with your life, I would be like, sign me up. Can we actually take 4 hours? Because I have a lot to say. There are other people, however, that you get in front of them and you're like, okay, let's start talking about, value systems and purpose and experiences, and they're deer in the headlights. So the important thing that we've recognized is that you can't just go into the conversation saying, well, what are the experiences that you really like? And, what are the values that you appreciate? It's kind of this layering, and we call it's the 7 layers deep questioning, but it really starts with, tell me something that you've kind of put off for a while. And it's interesting because you find out pretty quickly what types of things people value when you start asking those very, very simplistic but meaningful questions. So, it might be something along the lines of like, hey, you're to a point now where you're retiring, by different definition, but you're retiring, you're going to maybe have some more time on your hands, maybe you just sold your business. So tell me, what's something that you've always wanted to do that you've kept on your someday list? And you'll find people will either be like, oh my gosh, well, I've really wanted to travel to XYZ location. I've always wanted to go to Switzerland and, jump off a cliff, or, or you might have somebody that's like, what, I have said I want to take my grandkids fishing more, and I just haven't taken the time to do it. So it's interesting. You start really uncovering as you ask those questions, what people value and what's meaningful to them. The other thing that we like to do too is to kind of back into who they want to be around with and help them identify the key people in their lives that can help them stay true to these experiences. So I think about, and I'm going to use Brian as an example. So we think about like visioning or vision boarding. Again, some people are absolutely, that's not their jam. They're like, I'm not going to cut out pictures of things that I want to maybe do. That's silly, or that's not important, or whatever the case is. Here's the thing. When you have something in front of you that you've always wanted to do, even if it's a picture of like the back of, an older gentleman with his cute little grandkids fishing, or in Brian's case, it's maybe some pyramids in Egypt. that not very many people maybe get to or take the time to experience. I mean, I was so stinking excited for him when he was taking that trip, because I'm like, I've known for a long time that Mr. Sweet wanted to go see the pyramids, and he did it, and he experienced it, and he leaned into it, and he found somebody that could help coordinate that trip. So from our perspective, whether it's big and grandiose and cool experiences, or it's something as simple, like you said, Eric, as slowing down, taking in the moments, appreciating the time, then, it doesn't really matter to us. It matters to us that you feel fulfilled.
Yeah. And one of the things I will add to that, Brittany, is I think part of the problem that happens is people just get tied up in the day-to-day, of running a life. And so they just let life happen to them versus making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, kind of taking off on what you said, you have to be conscious of things that you want to have happen in your life. And once you're conscious of them, and for me, I'm a very visual person. So if there's something that I really want in life, I do cut out pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just tell you from personal experience, if I cut out pictures and look at them, it for whatever reason, it seems that they actually come to fruition because it's top of mind and you just kind of take actions to get there, I guess. But I would just say people just need to sometimes slow down. Think about if you could do anything in life and anything was possible, what would be the most amazing experience or thing that you could do that you would love to talk about, over the next 10, 20 years that you were able to do it and have memories and pictures and conversations on. Once you then have that thought, then it's actually really easy, or at least much easier, to make a plan where you take these steps and you put these amount of dollars aside and do these, techniques to help make that happen. But if you take no action at all, I can guarantee you're going to get no results. So I think it's just intentionality, and we use that word a lot on this podcast, but anything in life that you want to have happen, you just want to be intentional about it. And, one of the things that we've also done, which I'm sure Brittany will allude to, is once you know what you might want to do, it may be a really unique, difficult thing. But fortunately, we have created relationships with lots of outside people, collaborators, that actually can probably create literally any kind of experience, no matter how crazy you come up with. I think we know the people that can get that done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of those things where, you've always wanted to sing on stage with your favorite singer, or, I don't know, go visit some crazy place that, is invitation only, or, special access only, or whatever that looks like. There are people out there that can literally make it happen. Now, there might be a price tag to it, but if you're willing to pay it, and if it's important to you and it's meaningful to you, then, let's, by all means, let's talk about it. Let's help you figure it out. Let's help you do it. And here's the differentiator. And I have to do this as a plug because it's what we do every day. But, we are so fortunate to be able to work with people to help them make, going back to that like emotional versus logical decision, help them make logical decisions around this. If there's something they want to experience and they're like, well, I can't afford it. It's like, well, you haven't even really told me what the costs are or anything, or told Brian to run it through a scenario, or told your advisor that you work with. So how do you know you can't afford it? Let's talk about that. Let's play with some numbers. We've got the software. We've got the smart people on the team. Let's see if we can make that happen for you. And I think about Brian, and obviously without sharing the name or anything, I think about the gal that you helped. She was going to take a vacation. I want you to talk about that story because that's so powerful.
Yeah. I always remember this one because she gets to remind me of it every time we have a visit, but this has been a number of years ago. But I had one of our really great clients lives in another state, and we were having our review. We happened to be on the phone. This was before Zoom got popular. And she was always this really energetic and uplifting person. And boy, today she was just, you could just tell something was going on. So I just kind of stopped the conversation and I said, I don't mean to stop the conversation, but, there's obviously something going on and maybe it's none of my business, but, if I can be helpful, I want to be helpful. And where the conversation went after that, she said, yeah, I'm just kind of disappointed in that. I just got off the phone with my kids, and she has 3 children, and they were all planning this great big vacation where they're all going to be together with all the grandkids, and I had to tell them, no, I can't come because I can't afford it. And I went, what do you mean you can't afford it? Well, you've never even, mentioned you had a desire to even do that. So I just stopped the meeting. I said, well, give me all the details. What's it cost? When do you got to go? What's all the things? And so the rest of the meeting was, let's see if we can do this. We got done, put all the information in. Fortunately, it was absolutely, you can do that. And then I got on the phone with her and we called the travel agent. I made her book the tickets because I still wanted to make sure she got it done. So we booked the tickets. She went on the trip. Long story short, every year, 6 months, we chat with her. And I can tell you 100% of the time, the first thing she brings up, it's, hi, Brian. And by the way, Brian, I want to thank you again for, that was just like
Awesome.
apparently the highlight of her life, because she hasn't had an opportunity where the whole family and all the grandkids were in one spot at one time, undivided attention. They were all there to have a good time and enjoy each other's company. I only needed to have that happen one time not to want anybody to miss out. And, one of the things I personally, and maybe this is just our firm, but I would tell you the biggest problem people have is they don't spend enough. So if you've got excess, what could that be for? Well, in my opinion, let's use it for experiences, because those are the things you're going to remember. Those are the things you're going to share with your kids. Those are the things you're going to think fondly of when you aren't in a funny, or a physical condition to be able to maybe keep doing them. So it's just make sure you're aware of them and make sure you're talking to your financial advisor and let them know you want to do it so they can work it out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love everything you've said so far. I love the dream board. I've never been one to necessarily use that method, but I had a client when I was coaching. I had a client that had a goal, and this is obviously somebody who's pre-retirement, but I think this translates into retirement as well. And when you can have experiences there, he had a goal, and one of his goals, he was going to have a reward for himself of a couple new suits, and high-end suits. And he had to make he had to make his goal first, and then he was going to get his suits. But to help remind him why he was doing what he was doing, I had him go to the shop, the place that handmade the suits, and pick out the cloth that he wanted. And they would give him a swatch of it, right? So then I had him go to the hardware store and put a grommet in it and use that as a keychain. So every day, because that's one thing most of us are doing now that we're commuting a little bit more, you grab your keys. So that swatch was right there always. And so he always reminded him every day of, okay, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm working so hard to gain new clients. This is why I'm working so hard to do whatever. And that was one of his rewards. I think that it translates to folks that are, Brian, like you. If you have a goal and you want to go diving with sharks, you can find a keychain for anything. I'm not selling keychains here, but you could look up shark keychain, purchase that, put that on your keys, and every day that's going to be a little bit of a reminder. Okay, I'm gonna do this. And whether you have to set aside the money, you have to figure out how you're going to pay for it in 3 months, 6 months, or a year. Those little reminders keep us motivated, I think. And so, have you helped, or how have you helped your retired clients kind of use a dream board, or use things that if they have to do some more planning, if it's not something they can instantly do, how do you help them look forward to it and remind themselves that this is what they're really striving for, that specific experience?
Yeah. So we've had people go through like a full, and I think back to when we were first doing the Dream Architect, or trying to bring it to life, bring it to fruition, and had people go through different workshops where we actually created physical dream boards for them. Our team also is just absolutely amazing. I mean, they'll send little, one-off things to our clients, or little reminders like, hey, did you book that yet? Hey, you told me that was important. I mean, they're so darn good at it. Half the time, I don't even know that they're doing it. Brian doesn't even know that they're doing it until we find out afterwards that they've sent those cool reminders. The other thing too is, there's different softwares that we use that we have started putting pictures in that people have talked about things
Love
they
that.
want to do. So then if they come in for a review, we can show that, we can pull that up. And again, there's some people that that's just not their mojo. Like they don't care. So if they don't care, we're not going to force them into it, but we are going to give them, nice little nudges or suggestions and reminders when they come in that they've said that this is important to them. So those are some of the things that we've done. And, Eric, I love that the swatch, that all those things are so neat. And it made me think of, there's two different things actually. Number one, when you're looking at something that you want to create an experience, and I'll tell you, I mean, I think about, Brian has had a gal come and like do the nice suit and the fitting and all this stuff. It's an experience, right? Like that's something that is truly an experience. And it's awesome. It's so convenient. It's great. It's great service, all of those great things. So if that's something that you strive for and that's something that you want, and that's a goal as a result of something else, there's a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy called Be Your Future Self Now. And that's what, I think about when people are thinking about how they want their life to look, the experiences they want to have, like take the time to picture yourself in that moment or having that experience or being that person that already hit that goal or hit that target where you feel like you can reward yourself. It's amazing at how putting yourself in that future space can help you get even more clarity around why you want it in the first place. So, that was one thing. The other thing, and, talk about geeking out. There's this whole thing in our brain. It's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And there's literally scientific proof. For those of you that don't like the warm fuzzy stuff, there is scientific proof that shows that whatever we put in front of our mind is what we are going to see evidence of. So we've used this example before, I believe on this podcast, actually. Like if you decide you want a red Chevy pickup with, the crew cab model, the 4 doors and whatever fancy grill and whatever else, you are literally going to start seeing red Chevy pickups everywhere you go. And it's not because you just have great taste. It's not because you just really like popular things. It's because your brain has been turned onto it. So I would be willing to bet that the gentleman you're talking about with that little swatch, that he touches every day is going to be so much more inclined to hit that goal than somebody that's just kind of wishing it away or writing it down on a piece of paper, hoping it comes to life one day. Those physical, tangible, visual reminders are so darn important for so many reasons.
And I would guess, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing he made that goal and he got those suits.
He did. And
Yeah.
part of that goal was a weight loss goal. So when he had to get up at 4:30 in the morning, go to the gym, that swatch reminded him why he was getting up so early, because that was part of buying a new wardrobe. Right. So yes, absolutely. Very motivating. And again, I do this all the time. If I don't write it down or if I don't keep it top of mind, I will just forget. And then in a month I'll go, oh, I wanted to do this. And then I forget again. Right. So got to be so intentional with these goals and visions and dreams. Or else they just go away.
Yeah. And to take off on what Brittany said, I totally agree with that. If it's not front of mind, it's less likely to happen. So in our software, on our, client relationship management software, we actually have a section just on those topics that are important to clients. So that the team can send out little reminders, because we're very fortunate in that we have gotten a lot of connections to people that know things or can provide different services or can get different things for people. And, when we hear something and we know a little bit more about where they're at and what difficulties are they having in making it reality, just by us, putting them in touch with people is sometimes just like a very 2-second thing, but it makes it happen. And, and that's really the goal, is if we can put you in touch, give you a resource, give you the answer, and just eliminate all the reasons why it's not going to happen. Well, then our last part is just to be the encourager that if you had everything you needed, but you haven't done it yet, then maybe get on the phone with you and book that travel agency or, whatever it happened to be. So sometimes we even go to that extent, because for whatever reason, still in their back of their mind, they're still a little apprehensive. And when we force their hand, if you will. 100% of the time, we've always gotten a thank you. I'm glad you made me do that. I wish I would have done it sooner, and yada, yada, yada. So, it's just those little pushes sometimes is all people need.
I think a big change just in the last probably 20 years is how many different ways you can connect with people that are of like mind, right? If you're
So true.
interested in something, and just the one thing that comes to mind, this is maybe really weird, but pickleball, right? That seems to be a huge thing right now. And if
Huge.
you're interested in pickleball, you can immediately find groups, whether it's on Facebook or Reddit or any of these community sites that you go to. There's going to be people talking about it that are engaged and interested and excited about it. And I think that that's something you guys have spoken about this on the podcast before, making sure you surround yourself with people that are positive, that have that positive messaging and are aligned with what you like. So people don't have to feel like they're alone in this maybe possibly new adventure, even if they're in a very small town, right? They're in a very small town and there's nobody else that wants to go shark diving. There are people out there, Brian, that want to do this. And I guarantee there's a community that you can hook up with just by Googling it, right? I think that that's a huge positive, in today's day and age. What do you guys say about that?
Well, we agree with you 1,000%.
Oh, good.
And here's something. What would you have said if we were like, that's a terrible idea, Eric?
I'd quit. I'd just walk out at this point.
No, it's something we believe so passionately about. And, full disclosure, this is something that we're actually creating.
Oh,
It
nice.
is completely separate from Sweet Financial Partners. So I want to make that very, very clear. It's not an extension per se, yet it kind of is a little bit. So if you've listened to the last couple of episodes where we've talked about, redefining wealth, your health and longevity, your purpose and legacy, and now experiences, we're actually putting together immersive experiences, invitation only, where people can come and learn and go deeper on these topics. But the cool little thing that we're going to do is that, we can't control, we were able to partner with this scan clinic, and that's going to be the first one. And depending upon when this exactly airs, it's in March of 2023. So we can't control where their location is. Like, we got to go where they are, because that's where they do their work. But what we can control is some of the cool experiences that we're going to sprinkle in. So it's one of those things, how I said earlier in the podcast, making the ordinary extraordinary, being able to sprinkle in and give people experiences that they're not expecting, that are really fun, that get their energy up. And the whole point of this whole entire thing is to bring together like-minded individuals to be able to experience these things together. So I'm excited to see, Brian kind of talked about it a couple of podcast episodes ago, how he's excited to see, the impact of, helping people take preventative measures on their health and being able to have those stories. Something that drives me is being able to see kind of the byproducts of what's going to happen, of the people that are all of a sudden going to be vacationing with this crazy over here, jumping in an ocean with some sharks, or whatever else they'll come up with. But, Eric, what you said is so dead on, that, sometimes the people that are around you immediately doesn't make them bad people, but they have different interests. They don't care about the things you care about. And that's okay. That's what makes us all individuals. But you got to find the people that can support you in it.
I got a friend that when he gets a group together, his first line is welcome to the community you choose, not the one you were born into. And so if you choose the community of like-minded people, then the ability to expand on something that you enjoy gets enhanced.
Amen.
Love that. All right. Well, you've teased us a lot about this stuff. And how can people find out more information? I mean, you said March of 2023. I'm kind of curious now about that. Maybe it's not something you're announcing completely or have full disclosure on yet. But if they want to just kind of explore what these last 3 podcasts have been about, how do they get a hold of you?
Yes. So a couple different ways. For the new platform, dreamarchitect.com. And of course, sweetfinancial.com. That's our lifeblood. That's our home. So you can reach us through either of those different methods and learn a little bit more about what we're doing there.
Yeah, fantastic. Brian, any closing thoughts for today's podcast as we wrap up?
No, this has just been so fun and very energizing to me to talk on these topics. So thank you for all the good inquiries and good observations along the way. And if somebody does have some interest in learning more about that opportunity, and for those that, don't want to like travel and have the immersive, we will have at some point, also an online version of this. And so there'll be other resources that you can kind of test the waters, if you will, and those would be part of the Dream Architect website once that's all up and running.
Well, again, to the two of you, thank you so much. Brittany, I see why you draw so much energy from Ryan with his, just his demeanor and how excited he gets about this kind of stuff, and the fact that he's just continues to push the envelope in so many different areas. So Brian, thank you for that. And of course, our last thank you goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Dream Architect Live podcast with Brian Sweet and Brittany Anderson. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Brian and Brittany come out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask that you share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, as this will help others find the show. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Sweet Financial Partners, this is Eric Johnson reminding you that possibility comes to those who create it. And we'll see you next time.